50 years old, 50 shows sold out in London, a body pushed past exhaustion, and a heart that would simply stop. On the morning of June 25, 2009, inside a rented mansion in Holmby Hills, Los Angeles, Michael Jackson lay in a darkened bedroom with the windows covered, hooked up to an IV drip like a hospital patient who never made it to the hospital. In the hallway, security guards waited for orders that never came. In the kitchen, staff went about their routines, unaware that upstairs the most famous entertainer on earth was fighting for sleep and losing. Wikipedia. For months, he had been rehearsing for This Is It, a 50-date residency that was supposed to rewrite his story. The frail man in the rehearsal footage still moved like liquid electricity, spinning, snapping, moonwalking across the stage as if time didn't apply to him. But when the lights went off and the music stopped, something darker waited in the silence. Chronic insomnia, crushing pressure, and a dependence on powerful drugs that never should have left an operating room. People.com. Outside those gates, fans were already gathering, as they always had. Some carried old vinyl copies of Thriller, the album that had turned a boy from Gary, Indiana, into the most famous face on the planet. Others clutched worn tour t-shirts from the bad and dangerous eras, memories of the nights when stadiums shook under the sound of a single voice. Online, his music videos were still breaking records decades after their release. Billie Jean, Beat It, Thriller, each one a time capsule from the moment he became more than just a star. He became myth. Wikipedia +2. Wikipedia +2. At 12:21 p.m., a frantic 911 call finally went out. Paramedics arrived to find Michael Jackson not breathing, skin cold, eyes open but empty. They worked on him in the ambulance. They worked on him at the hospital. For more than an hour, doctors pushed, shocked, injected, hoping that a heart that had powered half a century of music might beat one more time. At 2:26 p.m., they stopped. The king of pop was gone. Officially, it was cardiac arrest caused by acute propofol intoxication. Unofficially, millions of people around the world asked the same question. How do you kill a man like Michael Jackson? Wikipedia +2. Wikipedia +2. In the days that followed, the story only grew stranger. His personal doctor, Conrad Murray, would stand trial for involuntary manslaughter. Courts would dissect every minute of Jackson's final hours. The sedatives, the phone calls, the delays in calling for help. Fans would point to the years of pressure, the accusations, the surgeries, the loneliness. Critics would say his demons finally caught up with him. His family would insist that the full truth had never been told. Wikipedia. Plunge. This is not just the story of how Michael Jackson died. It is the story of how a shy child from a cramped house in Gary, Indiana, was turned into a machine for miracles and money, and what happens when a human being is asked to be a myth for too long. The world thinks it knows Michael Jackson. It knows the glove, the moonwalk, the red jacket, the Neverland gates. It knows the scandals, the headlines, the jokes. But behind all of that is another story. The boy, the prodigy, the prisoner of his own legend. And the final night when everything he had built collapsed in a quiet bedroom, with no cameras, no audience, and no second take. What really happened to Michael Jackson? And who paid the price for turning him into the king of pop? Long before the world called him the king of pop, Michael Joseph Jackson was just a small, soft-spoken boy in a cramped house on 2300 Jackson Street, Gary, Indiana. 7 children shared 2 bedrooms. Cold dust from the steel mills drifted through the windows. Music was the one thing that cut through the noise of poverty. Not because it was gentle, but because it was the way out. His father, Joseph Jackson, ran the home like a boot camp, not out of cruelty alone, but out of fear. Fear of remaining invisible, fear of raising children who would never escape the factory floor. He formed his sons into a group: Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and then Michael. The youngest, yet the one who sang like he had swallowed fire. He could mimic James Brown at 6 years old. He could command a stage before he was tall enough to see over the audience. People love to romanticize prodigies. They forget the cost. Michael didn't play in the yard. Michael rehearsed. Michael didn't have sleepovers. Michael performed. While other children ran through sprinklers on summer nights, Michael was under harsh lights in Chicago bars, dancing for adults who couldn't take their eyes off him. By age 10, he was already carrying an entire family on his thin shoulders. Motown discovered the Jackson 5 in 1968, and suddenly Michael was catapulted from concrete sidewalks to television studios. America watched a small boy with a giant voice tear through "I Want You Back" with a confidence that felt supernatural. The charisma, the timing, the smile. It was all so big that people forgot he was still a child. And something strange happened in those early years. Michael didn't just perform music. He became music. It moved through him like electricity. Executives saw it. His father saw it. The entire world saw it. But no one asked a question that should have been obvious. What happens when a child becomes the family business? What happens when the gift is greater than the person who carries it? During interviews, little Michael often sat with his hands folded, eyes wide, answering questions with a rehearsed politeness. He wasn't shy. He was guarded. Even at 10, he understood something about fame that many adults never learn. Once the world takes a piece of you, it never gives it back. As the Jackson 5 dominated the charts, Michael began to sense the shape of his future. A life dictated by stages, cameras, expectations, and decisions made by people older, louder, and more powerful than he was. The boy from Gary was disappearing behind the icon the industry was building. By the mid-70s, cracks started showing. Michael felt trapped. He wanted creative control. He wanted independence. He wanted to grow, but everyone around him wanted the child star forever. The pressure became a cage padded with gold and applause. And so he did the only thing a person can do when the world insists on writing their story for them. He escaped. He left Motown. He left the Jackson 5 image. He left the version of Michael people thought they owned. And in 1979, he stepped back into the light as something new. Something sharper, stronger, stranger, more ambitious. That album was Off the Wall. 2 years later, he would release Thriller, and nothing, neither music nor culture, nor Michael himself, would ever be the same again. When Michael Jackson entered adulthood, something extraordinary happened. The shy boy who once hid behind brothers and record executives began shaping a universe of his own, not just a career, a mythos. It started with Off the Wall in 1979. Quincy Jones, the legendary producer, saw in Michael what few in the industry truly recognized. Not a former child star trying to survive adulthood, but an artist with the potential to redefine the sound of an entire era. Together, they built an album that breathed disco, funk, soul, and something Michael alone could give it: innocence wrapped in precision, fire wrapped in silk. Don't Stop Till You Get Enough wasn't just a hit. It was a declaration. Michael wasn't a kid anymore. He wasn't a backup voice for his brothers. He was a force. But that was only the beginning. 2 years later, Michael and Quincy created an album so powerful it broke the laws of pop culture. Thriller wasn't just music. It was architecture. It rebuilt everything: sound, visuals, performance, celebrity, even the music industry itself. The numbers are repeated so often they almost sound unreal. Over 70 million copies sold, 7 top 10 singles. Music videos that redefined what music videos could be. But the real story isn't the numbers, it's the transformation. Michael's eyes changed. The softness hardened into something sharper. The perfectionism grew teeth. The boy who once waited to be told what to sing now spent nights obsessing over every note, every breath, every frame. He learned the language of cameras as fluently as he learned music. He studied great dancers, great actors, great directors. He absorbed everything, and then he reinvented it. The moonwalk, revealed during the Motown 25 special in 1983, hit the world like a lightning bolt. Millions watched him glide backward across the stage with a calm so supernatural it became immediately iconic. Children tried to copy it in living rooms. Dancers rewound their tapes until they snapped. Grown men stared at the screen and whispered the same question. How did he do that? And suddenly, Michael wasn't just a musician anymore. He was a phenomenon, someone whose every gesture became part of global memory. The success continued with Bad, an album that carried a harder edge, a hunger, a desire to carve himself deeper into the core of culture. Stadiums around the world shook under the sound of his voice. People fainted when he walked on stage. Entire cities shut down when he arrived. Somewhere in this era, this volcano of fame, Michael Jackson became something almost non-human in the public imagination. Not a singer, not a dancer, not even a superstar. A mythic figure like Elvis or Charlie Chaplin or James Dean. Someone whose existence seemed too big for reality. But this transformation came at a cost. Fame of this magnitude doesn't lift you, it isolates you. Every success built another wall. Every expectation became heavier. Every rumor spread faster than the truth. Behind the glittering jackets, behind the sharp choreography, behind the dazzling videos that rewrote music history, a shadow quietly followed Michael everywhere he went. A shadow that whispered, "You can rise this high, but you cannot stay here forever." And so while the world celebrated the king of pop, Michael felt a shift inside him, the beginning of a fracture that would grow with every passing year. The climb to the top was spectacular. The fall would be something the world would never forget. The higher a person rises, the more violently the world reacts when they slip. And for Michael Jackson, the fall didn't begin with a scandal. It began with loneliness. Fame had swallowed his childhood, and now it was eating away at his adulthood. He could no longer walk in public. He could no longer trust acquaintances. Every smile around him could be a mask. Every friendship could become a headline. Michael retreated deeper into private worlds, studios where he worked until dawn, hotel rooms with curtains sealed shut, and eventually Neverland. People called it eccentric. They called it strange. But to Michael, Neverland was not an escape from reality. It was reality, a place where he could finally be the child he was never allowed to be. A kingdom built for innocence, precisely because his was stolen too early. But the world does not forgive innocence. It mocks it, twists it, weaponizes it. In 1993, the first accusation hit. A storm so vicious it nearly erased everything he had built. It didn't matter that he denied it. It didn't matter that friends, colleagues, and even psychologists defended him. It didn't matter that the case never went to trial. What mattered was that the allegations gave the public something they loved more than a superstar, a fallen superstar. Michael's eyes changed again during that period. The sparkle dimmed, the edges hardened. He no longer danced with the same free abandon. He moved like a man carrying invisible weights. When he appeared on television for an interview with Oprah Winfrey, millions watched. They expected confession, scandal, shame. Instead, they saw a man breaking, trying to sound strong, trying to speak calmly as the world dissected the most vulnerable parts of his life. His face, his skin condition, his childhood trauma, his loneliness. People didn't know which was more compelling, his talent or his pain. Then came 2003, the second accusation, Living with Michael Jackson, and the infamous documentary that edited his life into a nightmare. What remained of his public innocence was torn apart. The prosecution built a case that made global headlines. The trial dragged on, suffocating him, draining him, humiliating him. Inside the courtroom, Michael looked like a ghost of the man who once moonwalked across the world's imagination. His suit hung loosely on his fragile frame. His walk was slow, almost broken. His face was pale, hollow, exhausted. Cameras captured every step, vultures waiting for weakness. And yet something remarkable happened. When the verdict came, not guilty on all 14 charges, Michael didn't celebrate. He didn't smile. He didn't triumph. He simply closed his eyes as if the world had taken something from him that would never return. And maybe it had. Freedom didn't restore his spirit. Innocence didn't restore public trust. Acquittal didn't restore his life. The damage was done. The mythology around Michael Jackson had split into two incompatible realities. To millions, he was still the greatest entertainer who ever lived. To millions of others, he was a symbol of suspicion, controversy, and whispers. He withdrew from America. He drifted from country to country, Bahrain, Ireland, Las Vegas, searching for silence, searching for a place where he wasn't a headline, searching for sleep. That was the most tragic part. The world believed Michael Jackson's biggest battle was legal, but his real battle was medical, private, and invisible. It was a battle inside his body, the insomnia that consumed him, the anxiety that never left him, the pain that came from a life under a magnifying glass. This was the beginning of the end, not because of scandal, but because Michael Jackson had finally run out of places to hide. But behind the rehearsals, behind the applause, behind the promotional machine, Michael was barely sleeping, not sleeping poorly, not sleeping lightly. He was not sleeping at all. Doctors later testified that he suffered from chronic, severe insomnia, the kind that breaks the mind before it breaks the body. For years, he had cycled through medications, benzodiazepines, sedatives, painkillers, anti-anxiety drugs. But by the final stretch of rehearsals, none of it worked anymore. And then came propofol, an anesthetic normally used during surgery, not a sleeping pill, not a sedative, a drug meant to knock out a patient in an operating room. His personal doctor, Dr. Conrad Murray, administered it to him nightly in a private bedroom, without monitors, without hospital equipment, without backup staff. Medical experts would later testify that this was the equivalent of performing surgery in a living room. The setup was a disaster waiting to happen. Still, Michael was determined to push through. Even exhausted, he danced with a precision that seemed impossible. Choreographers said he could go from weak to electrifying in seconds. Rehearsal footage shows a man fighting his body, refusing to surrender. But the cost was building. On the night of June 24th, Michael rehearsed for They Don't Care About Us with a spark his team hadn't seen in weeks. Kenny Ortega called it a magical rehearsal. Michael joked, laughed, spun, snapped, haunted by fatigue but fueled by something else, a need to prove the world wrong one more time. That was the last time anyone saw him alive. The final night, June 25th, 2009. In the early hours of the morning, Michael returned home to the mansion on Carolwood Drive. Staff said he looked tired but calm. His children were asleep. Dr. Murray was waiting. What happened between 1 a.m. and 12:21 p.m. became the most dissected timeline in modern celebrity history. Propofol given, sedatives layered on top. Michael stops breathing. Dr. Murray tries CPR on a soft bed, the wrong surface. No 911 call for an estimated 20-30 minutes. Paramedics arrive to find him in cardiac arrest. They work for over an hour. At 2:26 p.m., he is pronounced dead. The official cause, acute propofol intoxication. But the world was far from satisfied. They asked why a powerful surgical anesthetic was in his home. They asked why his doctor delayed the emergency call. They asked why the pressure to complete 50 shows was so extreme. They asked why Michael Jackson, the most famous entertainer on earth, died alone in a dark bedroom, hooked to an IV, like a patient abandoned. Aftermath. The world stops. Within minutes, the news spread across the planet. Los Angeles shut down. The internet slowed to a crawl. YouTube, Twitter, Google, all experienced record-breaking traffic spikes. Across the world, people who hadn't thought of Michael Jackson in years suddenly felt the same jolt. How is someone like him allowed to die? Fans transformed hospitals, theaters, and landmarks into shrines. Radio stations played Man in the Mirror, Billie Jean, Heal the World on loop. People who once criticized him cried openly. The world collectively grieved not just a musician, but a childhood memory, a piece of culture, a life that felt intertwined with the rise of modern entertainment. Meanwhile, investigators turned to Conrad Murray. His phone records, his timeline, his decisions, his omissions. In 2011, he was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. He served 2 years of a 4-year sentence. But even then, the verdict didn't silence the questions. Some believed Murray was a scapegoat. Others believed he was responsible but not alone. And millions felt the truth might be buried under pressure, money, and the machinery of fame. What remains undeniable is that Michael Jackson spent his final months trying to be superhuman for a world that forgot he was human at all. The king of pop died in a dark room, not with a roar, but with a whisper. In the years that followed, something unusual happened. Most celebrities fade after death. Their influence quiets, their relevance softens. But Michael Jackson did the opposite. He grew, he evolved, he became bigger. His music surged on every platform. Billie Jean crossed 1 billion views. Thriller became an annual ritual every Halloween. Smooth Criminal gained new life on TikTok. Man in the Mirror became a permanent anthem of reflection. The internet crowned him not just the king of pop, but the most watched entertainer in YouTube history. And yet, the legacy of Michael Jackson isn't just about numbers. It's about the strange duality he left behind. To millions, he is a saint, a genius, a visionary, a soul too gentle for the world. To others, he is a symbol of controversy, contradiction, and unanswered questions. But to the vast majority, he is something in between. A human being crushed under cosmic expectations. Michael Jackson's life has become a mirror the world looks into. When people talk about him, they are also talking about the cost of fame, the weight of trauma, the dangers of perfection, the hunger for spectacle, the cruelty of the spotlight, the beauty of art that transcends the artist. His story asks a question that echoes long after his final breath. What happens when a human is asked to be a myth? And what is the price of keeping that myth alive? Even now, more than a decade later, documentaries continue to dig into his final days. Fans continue to fight for his name, skeptics continue to look for hidden truths, and his children continue to live with a last name that changed the world, but also stole their father. Michael Jackson's legacy lives in paradox. He was adored by billions, yet died alone. He built a neverland for children, yet spent adulthood trying to heal his own childhood. He created the most joyful music of the century, yet carried sorrow that few ever understood. But maybe that is why the world can't let him go. He wasn't perfect. He wasn't simple. He wasn't easily explained. He was strange, brilliant, wounded, extraordinary. A constellation of contradictions that made him unforgettable. Michael Jackson once said, "I'm just like anyone else. I just do my best to try to bring love and peace in the world." Maybe that is the legacy worth remembering. Not the scandals, not the headlines, not even the moonwalk, but the fragile human heart behind it all. A heart that beat through some of the greatest music ever made. A heart that broke under the weight of being the king of pop. A heart that, even in silence, refuses to be forgotten. The world lost Michael Jackson the man, but Michael Jackson the myth, the ghost that sings through time, is still here. Not in Neverland, not in courtrooms, not in speculations. He lives where he always did, in the speakers, in the dance floors, in the childhoods he shaped, and in the echo of a single note that changed the world. He.